Hey, YouTube, it's Abla. So for today's video, I want to speak on life in Africa. I know that's a hot topic, kind of like yeah, just life in Africa and the perception that people have and how it's not exactly what you might think it is or what it's going to be. I had this comment on one of my recent videos where someone asked that I show what day-to-day life is in Africa. Like, what's life like day-to-day in Africa? Like, show us what it's like, because I'm sure everyone has this perception that Africa, well, I mean, people are more educated these days, but a lot of people might have the perception that life is just some type of village bush life, which is ideal. But unfortunately for persons of the diaspora, even like myself, I've pretty much become part of the diaspora, even though I was born in West Africa. Also, I'm gonna be rocking and moving around so that my baby doesn't wake up. Anyways, it's waking up because I'm yapping. Okay, but okay, he woke up anyway, so let's make this short and sweet again. Unfortunately for people of the diaspora, you want to return to the continent and live a more natural lifestyle, which is possible, but it's not really possible to go into a new country, a new village, literally a village where people have lived, and their mother, their grandmother, their great-grandmothers have lived for hundreds of years, if hundreds, like for years. Okay, they've lived there for years. They've been a part of that community, a part of that area, a part of a tribe for so long. Like, that's for so long that they view it as their own. Like, they own that place and that land, and it's very difficult to come into that as an outsider. Think of how difficult it is to come as an outsider into a tribal land, a tribal space, because when you're going into the villages and things like that, it's like a tribal space, and Africans in general are tribal. Black people in general are tribal pretty much. That's why people are territorial and things like that. So yes, unfortunately, because I can't just book a flight, you can't just book a flight and then think you're gonna buy land in the village and live there with people who are going to be looking at you like, what are you doing? Because those people in the village, they want to live that modern lifestyle. So if you have that modern lifestyle and you're choosing to leave that and come with a bunch of money and buy land in their village, land that is theirs, but because you have money, you think you can take it and make it yours, you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a problem with the local people. So because that is not possible, my day-to-day life is not living in the village, in the bush of Africa. Have I had those experiences, and have I had great experiences in rural, like kind of underdeveloped, less developed places in Africa, in Omo Valley, Ethiopia, all types of experiences that when I think of right now, like living in a more modern space right now, when I think of those experiences, it feels like I time traveled to those places. It literally feels like I was in another life, in another world, so to speak, from the world that I'm in right now. It's crazy. It's great that I had those experiences, and I'm grateful, and I was so lucky to have those experiences and to be safe during those experiences. But unfortunately, those aren't, they're just experiences. You know, it's not for long term, and you're not really gonna sustain a life there. So that's why showing my day-to-day life that you might think is bush life in Africa is not what you think it is. We have to kind of find safe places that are good for people from the diaspora, that won't cause issue with different territorial issues, different tribal issues. You don't want to draw attention to yourself and raise any red flags to the local people, think you have money or think you have resources, because unfortunately it's very crab in the barrel in Africa between the diaspora and local people. Everyone is kind of fighting for resources, and if someone thinks you have something that belongs to them, or maybe that they should take or can take, there's always someone that's going to be looking at you like you have something to offer them. And especially if you're trying to come into their space and use their space and be a part of their community, you're going to have to give back. You can't just take, you're going to have to give. Now, like I said, I had great experiences living in like less developed places, experiencing things that I would have never experienced living in just the modern world. However, now the most safe option, practical option, long-term sustainable option is to be in a more modern space, which is not that difficult because Africa is very developed, more developed than you might think. It's really the cities, like the main cities of every African country, you're going to find development. Obviously, if you venture out of the capital cities, the main cities, that's where you're going to find more tribalism, village lifestyle, people there for generations, hundreds of years. That's where you're going to find more of that. However, in the city, people in the city came from those villages, so they have that same mindset. They're just not living in that environment. Now, like I said, not that hard to find that modern lifestyle in Africa because every city's going to have it. And my day-to-day life kind of is more of that modern setting when you think of Africa, though. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to kind of explain and talk about today. That village lifestyle, bush life that I was so lucky to experience, and I will be happy to experience again. And it's just not long term, and it's just not sustainable, especially for someone who has experienced. My daughter said birds are listening to me right now. Hi, Shanji. It's not long term, it's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is finding those modern spaces and then finding your space within that modern space and creating your own homestead or farm, if you would like, if you please. Create your own self-sustainable lifestyle within those modern places. You kind of have to bring the village lifestyle that you want into the modern space that will allow you to have that lifestyle legally and safely, you know, with owning property and things of that nature. So day-to-day life is pretty much embodying that, bringing that village mind of self-sustainability and natural living, things of that nature, into a more modern setting where those things are safe and legal and possible for someone from the diaspora. Going into a country that you have no real like ties to, like the life is so big, like we're so small and life is so big that you have to think of all the factors, not just, okay, I want to go live in the bush, I want to live a natural life, which is maybe what I thought when I was 18 and thinking of moving to Africa. But now I'm not 18 anymore, so I have to be realistic and practical and think of all of the factors and family and children and all those things. So those times when I was living in Omo Valley in the bush and stuff like that, I didn't have to think of so many things, and if times got rough or tough, it was a part of the experience. So if you have time and bandwidth for that, then you can do that, but just know that you will move on from that. And what's most sustainable is finding a modern space where you can build your homestead, build the life that you want and that is suitable for you. Build that in a more modern setting. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today, because I've been getting comments like, show us what you do day to day living in Africa, and I feel like it has that vibe of Africa being like some bush and I'm living some village life. But I'm not. I'm more so working towards having a homestead and building self-sustainability and having preparations in place, things like that, in a kind of modern way, because the village is not welcoming me. The village is not welcoming the diaspora, and that's fine. That's fine. And that is fine, because everything is happening for a reason. Everything will happen for a reason, and that's all I'll say about that. Don't force yourself to go be in those villages, because you don't know what's going to happen in those villages. Don't force your way in. So that's all I have to say for now. I hope everyone has a blissful, strong, blissful day, and everyone is walking through life with open hearts and open minds and joyfulness, joyful energy, because open hearts receive blessings. You know how they say a closed mouth cannot get fed? A cold heart cannot receive a blessing. So yeah, gotta heal and cry. Bye bye.